Okay, welcome to another video in the series What Makes a Soundtrack. In this one I'll be taking a look at the soundtrack of Made in Abyss, the winner of the Best Musical Score of 2017. I'll be playing a short clip of the soundtrack before talking about it, so you know which one I'm talking about. Disclaimer, this video will contain slight spoilers for the anime. But without further ado, let's get right into it. First off, we have the soundtrack Hanezeve Caradhina. I'm starting off with a bit of a wild card, since this soundtrack is very hard to analyze. And exactly because of that, the analysis of this soundtrack will be very superficial and quick. This soundtrack is first played in the last part of the first episode, when the town and the abyss is being lit up by the sun. The reason Hanezeve Caradhina is really hard to analyze is because while it does have lyrics, they consist of a made-up language. Because the musical composer Kevin Penkin and the author thought that would be a better fit for the series. There are a few fan theories connecting this made-up language to actual words in the English language. There are several different interpretations, but since it's been confirmed that it's all fictional, I won't be going into depth about any of them. However, if you find such theories fascinating, be sure to check them out. The soundtrack consists mainly of piano and vocals, however later in the soundtrack other instruments and harmonies start getting thrown into the mix. The second soundtrack we're going to take a look at is the soundtrack Tomorrow. This soundtrack doesn't have any lyrics, so this will be a purely musical analysis. A funny thing to note in the soundtrack Tomorrow is that the drums are used in a really good way. At around the 30-second mark, the drums start slowly playing, keeping a steady rhythm, functioning as kind of a build-up. Until we reach around the 2:20 mark, where the drums stop playing and something that sounds akin to a tuba comes in loudly, resembling something that could lead towards the climax. But then after a short period of time, the tuba stops playing and the tempo shifts towards a slower approach. This is where the soundtrack Tomorrow really starts to shine. After this shift in tempo, they start using vocals as the lead, instead of piano or another instrument. However, they don't sing anything. The vocals are used to harmonize with the instruments in the background. At around the 3:20 mark, they briefly, for about 10 seconds, add in some electrical elements, much like the kind you would hear in a remix, before finishing the vocal part of the song with a high-pitched note. After the high-pitched note, there are moments of silence before they start building up to the real climax of the soundtrack, which consists of wave of sounds getting higher and higher, before finishing off with a loud sound and a direct transition to silence. Kevin Penkin, the composer of the soundtracks for Made in Abyss, has stated that he focused a lot on what he would call a color palette of music, which in basic terms means that the way he's writing the music changes depending on what message he's trying to relay. For example, he stated that in a soundtrack like Reg's theme, since Reg is half organic and half machine, it felt natural to switch between organic and mechanical sound sources. With a soundtrack like Roar of the Abyss, there are examples of him trying to make the musical keys slowly ascend to represent the ascending of the abyss. And this might just be my opinion, but I think that Tomorrow has the same kind of feel to it. because of all the build-ups, ascending the musical key and the loudness of the music, which probably represents the ascending of the abyss. Now on to the next and final soundtrack, Underground River.
Traveling the ether back to you, to a land so far away. I feel the distance in between.
This is the only soundtrack I'm going to be analyzing in this video that actually has the lyrics to analyze, so I'll be putting more weight on the lyrics in this one instead of musical analysis like the previous one. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Starting off strong with the first sentence being traveling the ether back to you. I've created my own little theory as to what this could be referring to, so hear me out on this one. In old scientific theories, the ether was referred to as the fifth element, the others being fire, water, earth, and air. Before I start getting into the theory, I just want to mention that the word ether is closely associated to fire. In old times, some people believed that fire is actually being mistaken as the ether. And thematically, this fits very well with Reg's incinerator. Anyway, let's get on with the theory. As I mentioned, ether used to be called the fifth element. It was said to be something akin to air. It was something that was everywhere in the universe, like a layer between everything with small local motions. Ether was often used to explain things having to do with light and gravity. My little theory relies on the idea that the ether is a part of a gravitational force that doesn't move much and is practically a layer. In the later parts of Made in Abyss, Nanachi mentions the existence of an almost invisible layer which creates the curse of Abyss when you went up and through it. It might only be me who sees this correlation, but I think the sentence traveling the ether back to you is loosely referring to the layer that Nanachi spoke of, as they ascend further down into the abyss and then through the ether, which is also known as the layer that creates the curse. The middle part of the song Underground River refers to stuff about the abyss itself and the distance between Riko and her mom. Now the interesting part is near the end of the soundtrack, with the sentence I shall find the underground river. At the end of the first season, Riko and Reg are about 8,000 to 9,000 foot deep in the abyss. If you look at the map of the abyss, at around 12,000 to 13,000 foot deep, there's a large river stream known as the Sea of Corpses. There might be a possible connection to the sentence mentioning the underground river and the Sea of Corpses, which is right before the sixth layer. The sixth layer is known as the capital of the unreturned because no one has ever returned from it. This is probably the place that Riko's mom went down to. But that's about it for this video. If you enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe, whatever you're feeling up to, and I'll see you all in the next video.